Hi, welcome to S1.3, Effective Working in Accounting and Finance, a course in CAT Stage 1 offered in collaboration with WEB and ICPAL. And this course has 4 units. We are going to start with unit number 1, which talks about the role of the finance function. What is the role of the finance function? What we're going to learn from this unit is what the finance actually does in any company, and to understand what uses and who uses the financial information generated by the finance function, and how the finance function supports the rest of the business, and to understand how this actually is beneficial for CAT students now and when they actually get their CAT jobs, and how this is also applicable in schools and many other contexts in Rwanda. So what does the finance function, what is it and what does it actually do? It does various functions, and one of them is managing money and financial information. And they also record and keep business records and transactions, and they also prepare financial reports as well as financial statements. And they also support managers, especially senior managers, in making decisions, especially to do with money. And they also ensure that a company is legally compliant, especially in areas of tax and finance, as well as preparing the payroll for the company. Now we are going to talk about stakeholders. Who are stakeholders? Stakeholders are people or groups that are interested in a business, and they can be interested in various ways. And these can also be people who affect or are affected by the business or the organization. And the finance function communicates and engages with these various groups of people in various ways. And one way that stakeholders are involved with the finance function is they need financial information sometimes to make decisions. Think about, for instance, shareholders who might not need information to understand how their business actually performed. Now, let's talk about the two main types of stakeholders. There are two types of stakeholders. Number one, internal stakeholders, and number two, external stakeholders. How are they different? Internal stakeholders are those individuals or groups of people who actually work inside the business, within the company. We have some examples. These can be employees, managers, and other groups of people. External stakeholders, on the other hand, are people affected or affecting the business, but rather from the outside. And examples are, for instance, Rwanda Revenue Authority, the banks, suppliers, customers, and so on. Now, what are the different functions in a business? What are the different roles in a business, in a typical business? In an average business, you will find different departments, different roles, which include the production or service delivery, depending on the nature of the company. The sales and marketing department, those who are usually charged with ensuring that the company is known outside. Human resources department, these are usually charged with ensuring that people are effectively managed. Information technology, IT, in other words. Accounting and finance, which is basically what we're talking about today. These are people charged with ensuring that finances of the company are effectively managed. And there are also other types of roles. And so in a company, there are different roles that can be played, and what you need to understand in this course is who does what in a company. But for today, we only focus on accounting and finance role. Now let's talk about staff. In a typical company, in an organization, you will find two main categories of staff. Number one, line staff. Number two, support staff. And they're usually called staff functions. Line functions, these are essentially core people that are involved in services or activities that actually earn revenue for the company. For instance, sales and production. Think about a company like Inyange Industries. People who are involved in the actual production or sales of their products are called line functions. Staff functions, who are also called support functions, these are people who support the core functions, the defined functions to actually deliver their activities. And these may include people in accounting, internal audit, IT, and other staff that actually support the line functions to deliver the services that a company actually delivers to its customers. So what does the accounting department do? Remember, we have already seen what the finance function does in a company. And this course is essentially about how you effectively work in accounting and finance. So we have already seen finance. But let's now talk about accounting. What do they do, these people called accountants? They record all financial transactions that happen in a company. They also summarize this financial information for reporting purposes, because we've seen that there are stakeholders who are interested in understanding how a company has performed financially. They also prepare financial information. We will see something called financial statements. This financial information is used to prepare financial statements, and they also support financial accountability and the control in the company, especially for senior leaders who might want to actually be accountable to their shareholders and other stakeholders such as government. So let's talk about financial accounting in general. So these two, and in some cases you find a department called finance and accounting. So they do work in tandem, and they record transactions daily. As a company spends or earns, they record this kind of information. They prepare financial statements. They ensure that the company is legally compliant, especially with tax, and they also help the company in decision making. There is a branch of accounting called management accounting, and these are usually two branches actually. What we have seen is financial accounting. Now let's talk about management accounting. Maybe something I should have said on financial accounting is its main audience is external. They prepare information that is usually consumed by external stakeholders. On the other hand, management accounting is a function of accounting. People who work in management accounting prepare information that is mainly consumed internally by internal stakeholders, by managers for decision making. Think about things like budgeting, planning, okay? These are usually reports that are generated weekly, monthly, quarterly to support decision making internally. And it does not mean that this cannot be used externally, but the main audience is internal stakeholders. So what management accounting does in a company is essentially cost analysis, budget preparation, budgetary control, performance reporting to help managers manage their finances effectively, to understand how a company is performing on a regular basis, and to be able to make decisions that effectively ensures that the company's resources are effectively managed. So let's talk about statutory financial statements. I think I had alluded to this by saying that we are going to look at the financial information, the financial records that are prepared by accountants and management accountants, financial accountants, is used to prepare financial statements. We have essentially about 5 financial statements, and these are usually consumed by stakeholders externally, although of course internal stakeholders can use this information. But it is important for us to understand that financial statements are required by law. We have a company law in existence in Rwanda and in many other jurisdictions that requires companies to prepare and file their financial statements, both with Rwanda Revenue Authority as well as Rwanda Development Board. And there is a specific format for financial statements for each financial statement. We have the balance sheet, we have the income statement, we have the cash flow statement, we have the statement of changes in equity, we also have notes. There are various names that can be used for those financial statements, but a company in Rwanda is typically required by company law to prepare these kinds of statements and submit them to those authorities, as I have said. So as you continue with your journey of understanding accounting, and when you actually get a job, this is one of the roles that you might have to do, and it is important that you understand how these are prepared in other courses that you will be taking in this program. Let's talk about the payroll function. What does the payroll function do in a company? The payroll, and these are usually people collaborating between the finance department as well as the human resource department. But what they do is they calculate employees' benefits, employees' salaries, which are extracted from employee contracts. Each employee contract has a benefit, has a salary that is stipulated there for which an employee is entitled to, and they deduct pay as you earn. PAYE is pay as you earn. RSSB is Rwanda Social Security Board. Under Rwandan tax laws, an employee's salary is supposed to, an employee is supposed to pay taxes to Rwanda Revenue Authority, as well as some deductions that go to Rwanda Social Security Board, such as maternity allowance, CBHI, and others. So what the payroll function does is to actually deduct these benefits. These are legally required, and then prepare pay slips. Pay slips are documents that contain salary information that an employee may require to present to another stakeholder, or maybe a bank that wants to give this employee a loan, or just for their personal consumption. And they also ensure that employees are paid, okay, on a monthly basis and on time. And they also submit these returns to Rwanda Revenue Authority as well as RSSB. And this happens on certain specific deadlines. So the payroll function is an essential function in a company. So let's now talk about information that is received by finance. Finance does not operate in isolation. They are not islands. They depend on other companies, other employees or other functions in a company. So they receive invoices, receipts, attendance sheets, overtime sheets, the expense claims. These are all documents that are prepared and may be filled by staff in other functions in most cases. Think about, for instance, an employee who in the sales department, in the marketing department, who wants to go up country to market products of the company. They may need some small funds for facilitation, for instance, transport, for instance, meals. So they are going to get money and fill some forms that state that they have actually taken money from the company. At the end of their trip, they will bring these forms back to the finance department. And the finance department use this information to actually record transactions, summarize this information, and prepare reports that might be required and consumed by various stakeholders, as we have seen previously in this chapter. However, we have seen that the previous slide provides information that is fed to the finance department. Now, once the finance department has obtained this information, they prepare information that is going to be consumed by other stakeholders. They prepare salary costs, they prepare cash flow reports, they prepare budget performance reports, and they also prepare debtors and creditors lists, in addition to the other previous documents that we've already seen, financial statements, financial reports, that might be required by various stakeholders in a company. So we can see from this that the finance department has quite a role to do. And as you continue with your journey through CAT program, these are things that you might be examined on, but also things that you will be required to do once you actually get a job. Now, let's revisit how the finance department supports other functions. We've seen that the finance function is vital in a company, especially in as far as financial management is concerned. But they help managers to plan activities. They help companies to control costs and spending, because otherwise everyone wants to spend. But the finance department is actually a back door, a backstop to help the company manage finances effectively. They show profits and losses. As a company, you need to understand how you have performed, whether you have a loss or a profit. And they also ensure that there is efficiency in the company, that the company is managing its resources efficiently, that there is no wastage of resources in a company. Now, there is something in finance that we call working capital and solvency. And in other words, some people also call it cash flow management. Now, a company has assets, a company has resources. That does not mean that is cash. You might actually be rich as a company, but without cash on your bank account or in hand. So one of the roles that the finance department does is to manage working capital. Working capital includes cash, receivables. Receivables are, this is basically money that maybe usually your customers owe you. Maybe you've sold your goods on credit to a customer and they owe you that money, okay? And then inventory. So a collection of those three is what we call working capital. And the common denominator under these three is they are liquid. They are either cash or you can easily turn them into cash. Now, a company is required, especially through the finance department, to manage their working capital on a day-to-day basis to understand how the company is able to meet its obligations, its debts, okay? The finance department monitors working capital, the cash flow, to make sure that the company is not without cash, because it will be problematic, because the company will not be able to pay its suppliers. So they prepare reports that look ahead, maybe within months, to advise whether the company will still continue and will be able to pay its obligations on an ongoing basis. And if there are any challenges, they will of course alert management to make decisions in improving the working capital structure. Now, we have already talked about legal compliance, but let's pause and revisit this function. This is one of the most important functions of the finance and accounting departments. Companies exist, and one of the things they have to do, one of their obligations, is to comply with Rwandan laws and regulations, especially tax laws and regulations. The finance department ensures the company complies with tax laws and obligations, and these usually, are usually like on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, annual basis. They have to submit some reports, they have to pay some taxes, they have to declare some information. And they also submit taxes, especially to do with the payroll function. They keep records. Remember, the company law requires a company to keep some financial documents over a certain period of time, usually 10 years. So it is a legal requirement of the finance function to actually keep those records and to avoid them in case the government or the tax authority requires them, and to help the company avoid unnecessary penalties and fines. Now, let's dive into something different, something called an organizational structure. We've already seen the finance and accounting departments, but this is one department in a company. A company is much bigger and it has various other departments. Now, for you to have a 360 understanding of a company, you need to look at its organizational structure. And an organizational structure looks like this, usually with a managing director or a chief executive officer, a person on the top that manages operations, and there are usually other managers and maybe even staff under these people. And they can be arranged like this. Why? Because it helps you to understand who does what, who reports to who. It helps you to understand the chain of command, reporting lines, okay? Who reports to who is answerable to who is accountable to who. And this essentially ensures that workflow happens smoothly, and it is also used in business and the schools districts, and various institutions in Rwanda. Let's continue with that and talk about reporting lines. You will find that in most instances, every employee in a company has a person they report to. That person is usually called your supervisor or a line manager. Once you get a job, it is essential that you understand who your supervisor is, who your line manager is. Spare some time to understand what do they like, what do they not like or dislike, and for you to ensure how you are going to report to them. To also ensure how you might consult them, for instance. This person may also be a project manager in case you work in project management. So it is very important for all of us to understand that having line managers helps us with accountability, because otherwise we will not be working effectively without supervisors. Let's talk about organizational policies and procedures. Typically, every company has rules, policies. What are these? These are instructions that every employee must follow. There are all sorts of laws and regulations and policies and rules. These can be in finance, human resource, IT, and various functions of a company. Why do they exist? They exist because they help us understand how work is done. These can be prescriptions that essentially tell us how we do our jobs. These can be considered as guardrails that tell us that this is how you do your job, these are the don'ts, and these are the do's. And they can also be seen as a step-by-step process in how you approach your work or instructions. They can also help guide behavior, because we are people and human beings have different cultural backgrounds, they have different wishes, they have different ways of doing their work and living their lives. So these can be rules that help us understand what we are allowed to do at work and what we cannot do. And they also ensure that there is some order in the company. There is control, there is efficiency, there is compliance. And once you actually deviate from those guardrails, there can be consequences, there can be repercussions. For instance, there is, in a typical company, there is a process of authorizing payroll before employees are paid, because otherwise people would be paid more than they should be paid, or some people will not be paid. Now, we have seen the essential elements in this chapter. And before you continue with this video, I encourage you to pause this video, look at these practice questions. These, of course, are few questions. I encourage you to, after, of course, watching this video, to check the ICPAR website and look out for more questions. But these are some of the questions that I want you to pause right now, pause this video, get a piece of paper and a pen, and try to attempt these questions. And this is exactly how your final examination questions may look like. It may not be exactly this question, but this is how they may look like. There will be a question, usually a small case study, followed by 4 multiple choice questions or options. Out of those 4 options, there will be 1 correct answer. It will not be highlighted for you. You have to read the question, understand, and choose that multiple choice question. On a piece of paper, write whether your answer is A, B, C, or D. So let's do question number 1. Let's look at question number 1. Question number 1 says, a Kigali school prepares payroll and submits pay as you earn to Rwanda Revenue Authority. Which finance role is this? Is it management accounting, A? Is it B, payroll? Is it C, financial accounting? Or is it D, banking? Pause this video and write your answer. On the next slide, there will be answers, but don't rush to see those answers. First attempt this on your own. Now, we have already seen that the role of preparing payroll and submitting information such as pay as you earn and other deductions to Rwanda Revenue Authority or RSSB is a role of who? We will see that in the next slide. Let's go to question number 2. Question number 2 says, a Musanze shop owner wants a budget to control costs. Which accounting area helps most? A, financial accounting. B, payroll. C, management accounting. D, auditing. Again, try to understand the question. Note down whether it is A or B or C or D. Once you're done, you can now continue with the rest of the video. Right, okay. I hope you managed to pause the video and answer the questions, and I hope you got these right. But if you didn't get them right, you can try again and go back into the video and watch areas where I explain this. But the first question, the answer was payroll. We said that the payroll is responsible for calculating, submitting, declaring the salaries and deductions such as pay as you earn and other RSSB deductions. Question number 2, it was management accounting, because management accounting supports planning, control, budget preparation, and so on and so forth. These are only a few questions to help you start thinking about how to actually answer these questions. And this is exactly how some of these questions will be examined. As I said, once you finish this chapter, take time, go on the ICPAR website and look out for more questions that you can train yourself on how to answer these questions. Again, this is chapter number 1. So before we end this chapter, let's revisit the key areas that we have seen in this chapter. We have seen that what the finance department is, what the finance role is, and how it supports other departments in a company. We have seen who stakeholders are, internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, and how the finance department may support these stakeholders and how they may be interested in a company. What are their main interests? We have also seen the difference between financial and management accounting. We've seen that financial accounting mainly provides information that is consumed externally by external stakeholders. On the other hand, management accounting prepares information that is usually consumed internally. We have also seen what the payroll function is and how they actually prepare salary information, both for payment of staff but also compliance with tax obligations. And finally, we've seen the legal role of the finance department and how the finance department supports the company to comply with various legal obligations. This is the end of this chapter. We will continue with unit number 2 soon. Thank you.